Okay, so let's go ahead. So that's a lot of times when people think about their cottage, is it underutilized or is it not? Like that's something that really comes into play with when you think about should you rent out your vacation rental. Do you happen to feel like you're the only person in your family who works on it? Would you consider turning your cottage into an active investment? Or are you already renting the place yourself? So vacation rentals are a unique business. It's not something that's not brain surgery, but it's something that has a lot of different ways to slice it, but it's a lot of details going into this business. So our story. My husband Mark and I started this business in 2005. I was a teacher. He was a steel worker. We had perfect credit. And in 2005, if you remember, you could walk into a bank and smile, and they throw money at you. And so we were excited, and we were driving through one day, and we were driving through Upper Michigan, and through the Upper Peninsula actually, and we were looking through those real estate books. I used to love to look through the real estate books and just dream and wonder about what was out there. So we saw this real estate book. And we saw this private island for sale. And I thought, how cool would it be to own a private island? And my husband, and we were just dating at the time, he said, we can't afford a private island. And I thought, but if we rent it out, maybe we could. And so, hence, we have the island. So we ended up walking in the bank. It did take a little finagling, but we were able to buy a private island on the Michigamme River in the Upper Peninsula. And we had the island, and we actually had our first guests booked before we actually owned it, which was a little scary because I was afraid to tell the lady we were buying it from that we actually had it on VRBO and Home Away, and yet, so we were hoping it all went through without a problem. So on September 1st, 2005, we purchased our vacation rental, and we had the first guest come in 3 days later. So we were scurrying to get that cabin ready to go, but we did it. 2 years later, in 2007, our realtor said to us, she said, we have this big lodge, and would you consider buying it? And I thought, we don't need a lodge. But I kept listening to guests, and I kept listening to how people kept wanting bigger places, bigger groups. And they wanted to bring bigger groups to the island. And I thought, there's no way we can fit bigger groups in this island. It's not going to work. So we ended up purchasing the Rapid River Lodge, which is about 5,400 square feet, and once again walked into a bank and smiled in 2007, and they threw money at us. Well, that was what happened with the recession, for those of you who remember. The recession ended up crashing because there were a bunch of people like us who really couldn't afford houses that were given loans. And so, but we decided when the crash happened, we thought, we've got to figure something else out. So we decided to start working and managing properties for other people. We thought about choosing to give the houses back because we were underwater. By 2008, we were underwater, but we decided to start managing properties for other people. I put an ad on Craigslist. A federal attorney called me and said, hey, would you mind managing mine? And the rest is history. We've been working together now since 2008. And so it's been 12 years of a great relationship working on his Tioga Falls cabin. So my husband and I fell into the business, but then in 2012, I ended up quitting teaching and working on the business full time. So I quit teaching when we had 12 properties. I thought, I'm going to lose my mind if I keep teaching, trying to manage 12 properties. But so I decided to leave teaching, and now we have 76 properties. But we didn't keep buying them all. We actually managed for other people. So when you think about renting out your house, these are the key things you need to think about. You have to think about, how are you going to protect your property? That's really important to consider. How are you going to protect your property? What kind of insurance are you going to use? How are you going to keep it clean? How are you going to manage the guests and all their complaints? Because there are people out there that no matter what, no matter how perfect your house is, they will find something to complain about. There are those people. We all are related to at least one of those people. So advertising, legalities, supplies, those are all the things you have to consider when it comes to your vacation rental. How are you going to do this? So most people come to us and they want us to manage their place because they look and they say, or people decide to do it for themselves. Either do it yourself or use a management company. But you decide to rent out your place because you want to keep it in the family. That's the most important thing, to keep it in the family. And then you figure, how can that cottage pay for itself? Like, you're sick of putting all the money out of it, so you want to make sure it pays for itself. You can also turn it into a long-term investment opportunity. Some people actually do the self-directed IRAs. They can turn their property into their self-directed IRA so they don't pay taxes on it. So that works out really well, but you have to be really hands-off in terms of your management. You have to outsource your management and maintenance for that. But then, and really, one of the things that I love the most is how our cottages feel like a personal hotel. They don't feel anymore like you're walking into your cottage and then, we have to do this. We have to, clean up. We have to, we've gotten mice in there. Like, often when you go into a cottage that's been sitting dormant for a long time, a mouse will have decided to bury down. Or you have to dust. You have to make the beds. But when you have a vacation rental, when you have it ready for rent, it always has to be perfect. So it's always ready to go. And I love that part, because I walk in and now I feel like I have my own personal hotel, because it always has to be top of the line ready. Another thing, one of the considerations for renting out your house are the exchange possibilities with other owners. There are networks. You don't rent the house from other owners. You literally just exchange. You get points, and you exchange houses across the world. So I thought that was the best possibility. I was so excited about that possibility when we first bought the island. And even the first year when we bought the island, it was so exciting because we got a call from somebody in Paris, and they wanted to trade their apartment in Paris for our island for a week. And I thought, this is awesome. So we're going to be able to go all over the world and trade our place with other people. And then I got pregnant. And so 12 years later, now he's 11. We still haven't done it, but someday we're going to use those exchange possibilities with other owners, because it really sounds like an absolutely fun idea to be able to exchange your house with people. So when you consider renting out your house, one of the things you've really got to consider strongly, can you allow other people? I know it sounds silly, but it's one of the first questions. Can you allow other people to sleep in your bed? There are a lot of people who have issue with that. It's very difficult to get over the idea that someone else is going to be sleeping in your bed. Now, I personally look at it like a hotel. I sleep in the hotel. I'm sleeping here in the hotel. Somebody else has slept in this bed. I know they didn't buy the bed just for me. But when it's your own house, it's different for people. So that's the first thing you have to get over. If you're considering renting out your place, you have to get over that someone else is sleeping in your bed. I would recommend buying a new mattress pad. I would recommend buying your own sheets that just you use when you go there, if that's your issue. But, you have to get over that, though. Other people will be using your bathroom and sleeping in your bed. And the way I get over that also is by looking at that check that's a few $1,000s every month and having my property taxes paid. So that gets me over it really quickly. So to allow other people to sleep in your bed is a consideration. Also, can you really let go some of the burden of having a second home? Having a second home is a pain in the butt for most people. It is not easy. It's kind of like what they say about boats. What they say about boats, your best day, or the day you buy it, the day you sell it. Because it's really not an easy thing to own a boat. It's not an easy thing to have a second home. But if you can make that second home work for you and bring in money to you, pay its own property taxes, that's really great. So can you really let go of some of that burden? Can you get over the fear of liability? In the United States, we are such a liability and a sue-happy country. It's very challenging. So how do you get over that fear of liability? And luckily, we've done it by, when people are difficult, we offer them to leave immediately. That's one of our tricks of getting people out of our hair. So the fear of liability. So, for example, to start out, everybody who comes to our properties has to sign a waiver. They have to sign an accidental damage. They have to sign a waiver. It's like a release, like you would go anywhere. They sign a rental agreement and they sign a lease. But on top of that, then, if they get there and they start complaining and they start finding everything wrong, some property owners go on lockdown. They want to prove to the guests that they're right. We, on the other hand, if they're complaining about a lot of things and they're creating a fit, we just go ahead. You can have your money back and you can go. Because I know that if they're looking for something back, they'll find a way. Somebody's going to slip and fall somewhere. So we try to get them out of the house as fast as possible. And it only happens probably once a year. We've been in business since 2005. And probably once a year I have to ask somebody to leave because and sometimes they still want to stay, and so I remind them. And I make them put it in writing that they are, that they don't want any money back and they're okay. And because some people just complain to complain. So you really have to get over that fear of liability. We also, we hold a $2 billion aggregate insurance policy. So we do our best to protect ourselves. And luckily, in almost 15 years of business, it's never come up. We've never had to use it. The other thing you have to consider when renting out, if you're considering renting out your house, is can you really release some of the emotional attachment? It's hard. Here's your beautiful home that you've worked at and you've really, it's your treasured space. Can you release that emotional attachment? It's not easy for everybody. You have to depersonalize some of it. Not everybody wants to see every picture of all your grandkids on every wall. You need to release some of that. Maybe a picture or two, but that's it. When people walk into your vacation rental, it has to feel like their home. They have to feel like it's their vacation home. So that's a challenge that people face. Can you also turn over your booking calendar? Some people, it's a control issue. They don't want to turn over their booking calendar. Because when you put your booking calendar online through Airbnb, HomeAway, VRBO, Booking.com, using a management company, when you put it on there, when you book a guest, you have to follow through with that. So all of a sudden, you book this weekend in July for somebody, and then all of a sudden it's the most beautiful weekend of the year, you can't go ahead and cancel on them. So you don't have the opportunity to go up as often as you'd like. So that's hard for some people to say, oh, I really wanted that weekend, but it's already booked. And with Airbnb, if you cancel on people, they start moving you down the listing. So if you cancel, they let guests know how many times this owner has canceled on people, and then they move you down the ranks, then they kick you off. So Airbnb really is very rigid about the cancellations. But the bottom line is, if you're going to rent out your place, can you release the control enough to do it? It's not easy for a lot of people, but you really have to be able to release the control when you think about renting out your place. So the decision, like I said, it's a big one. It's not a 5-minute decision. Should you rent your place or not? Not a 5-minute decision. And what's interesting is, just a tip for guests. I think this is a really important tip that has old school. For people who have done this for years, remember there used to be a Saturday to Saturday booking. Everybody used to go for 1 week, require 1 week, Saturday to Saturday or Friday to Friday or Sunday to Sunday. That is so old school. People don't travel like that anymore. People like to do millennials like to do short, long weekends. They like short stays. So they like to do 3 or 4 nights. They don't want to stay one solid week in one place anymore. So that's old school. So what we do is we just charge them more. So you get a discount if you book for a whole week. But if you're just coming for the weekend, we charge you a lot more for those weekend days. And people are okay with it. So really thinking about renting for a whole week. Back in the day also, people used to bring their own linens. They'd load up the station wagon with all their linens and get up there and then make all their beds when they get there. People don't want to do that anymore. People want to walk in. They want it to be like a hotel. They want to all be ready. Nobody wants to be climbing on the top of a bunk bed after they've driven 9 hours to a place to make the bed. So it's important that it's ready to go. So we definitely do a lot of 3-night bookings now. And, and so people are happy about that. And they don't mind paying more. So the decision. This is the really most important piece if you're considering renting out your place. How often do you use your cabin? You have to look in the mirror. How often do you use it? For example, my sweet husband will tell you that he is never in the UP. We have a cabin in the UP that we don't rent out. That's no running water, no electricity. So I don't think anybody would ever want to rent it. We have not found a market for it. But in his mind, he's never in the UP. He will tell you he is never there. The reality is the man's there about every 6 weeks. So in his mind, he's never there. So that goes into play. Like when I run into some owners sometimes, they tell me they're never at their places. Well, when I really start talking with them more, they're there quite a bit. They're there about every month. And if you're able to enjoy your place every month, then just keep enjoying your place. Don't consider renting it out unless you're a pure minimalist, unless you really have little stuff and you're able to take all your food in, bring all your stuff out. Because if you have to clean all your food in and out every time, all your clothes in and out every time, it's a total pain in the butt. I do not enjoy doing that. And we've had owners leave underwear and bras in the drawers and think it's no big deal. Nobody wants to go on vacation and look at your underwear in the drawer. People get grossed out and people look at every drawer. People look and see all that stuff. They don't want to see your dog bowl and then you say no pets are allowed. So things like that, it really becomes their space when they're there, and they don't want to see all of your stuff. And so that's important. So you really have to look at current use. Also, current use of family members. You might not physically go up there, but your family may. I had an owner I met here a few years ago, and he said he was never there, which was an exaggeration. In his heart, he wasn't always there. But he said, but when we went there to take pictures, so he gave us a key. We went there to take pictures of the property, and lo and behold, we walked into a huge college party. His son had been using the cottage a lot. His son and his friends had been going up from Central and to Gaylord and enjoying the cottage on the weekends, and Dad had no idea. So the kid was using the cottage. Dad said to me when he gave me his own key, he said, "It's so strange. I don't know where my spare key is." And my husband and I got up there. We knew where his spare key was. So it's something to consider, not only how often you use it, but how often do your family members use it. And I will say it's kind of interesting. We have found that over the years, so when we have places that really nobody's using it in the family, we'll have one person who they feel like they're taking the whole burden on with the maintenance and everything. And they're like, oh, like I just can't do this anymore. There's a whole family here. I'm the one doing the landscaping. I'm the one organizing all the repairs and everything. I'm not going to do this anymore. So but then they come to us and they say, but we'd like to keep it in the family. So so they turn it over to us as management. So we start managing it. They start making money. And all of a sudden, all those family members come out of the woodwork. Now they want to stay at the cottage for free. They want to block off dates for themselves for free. And so what is nice is we can be the bad guys. And we at Freshwater, like sometimes a family will say whoever's in charge will say, okay, each family member gets one weekend. They get one weekend in the summer or 1 week in the summer. And so we were able to block that off. So then, so it's interesting how once the cottage gets up and running and they see how wonderful it is, and then they see what people are paying online. Oh, they're paying $200 a night online. Oh, maybe I will go and stay at the cottage a little bit. So everybody all of a sudden comes out of the woodwork to stay at the cottage, especially when they see what people are paying online for it. So beware of those family members. So if cottage maintenance, if you enjoy your cottage maintenance and you enjoy tinkering with your second home, that's wonderful. But if it starts to feel like it's just another weight, another thing to do, that's another reason to consider possibly renting out your home. Because having the cottage as just another weight it's something that you can pass on to somebody else and make money at it too. And also different travel experiences. Some of my property owners will tell me that they bought this cottage. They'd go up there all the time with the kids when they were little. The kids absolutely loved it. Then all of a sudden, those same kids turn into teenagers. Now it's not so cool just to go to the cottage every weekend. Or the kids get involved in travel sports. So then you're not around every weekend either. So all of a sudden, going to the cottage every weekend is not what it used to be. And then the kids are like, why can't we go to Florida? Why do we always have to go up north? But those same teenagers, if you happen to say, oh, okay, we're just going to go and sell the cottage. No, don't sell it. So this is a time that we also get a lot of owners saying, okay, we're going to turn it over and make it a rental for a while, and then in the future, hopefully my family will use it again, and then they'll bring, and then we'll come back. Or they just start blocking off more time for themselves. So, because most people, once they start renting it, they really love that at least the property taxes are paid, and so that's something that they keep renting it for years. So different travel experiences. People get tired of just going to the same place. It's not like it was back in the day where people go to the same cabin all the time and be okay with it. People are looking for different experiences, especially millennials. They want different experiences. So the best mindset for renting out your cabin. If you want to rent out your cabin, number one, can you be flexible? If that's the best. It's not the only mindset, but it's just harder if you're not flexible. So being flexible is the best, most optimal mindset. But then the second one, I should probably move this to the first. More important than that, do you believe that people are generally good? If you have a belief that people are generally good, this might be a really good fit for you. If you think everybody is going to screw you over, it's going to be a long, painful process to rent out your place. Don't do it. Don't do it. I warn you, don't do it. So you have to have this idea that people are generally good. And we really work hard at that at Freshwater. You also have to understand that guests are just like you. You have to get over yourself. Because I have a lot of owners who think they have the Taj Mahal. Look, we're property owners too. Your place is great. Everybody thinks their place is great. And we go back and forth, and they think, well, they need to pay $200 a night. Well, in the middle of March, who goes to a place, even our place that's 4 bedrooms, 2 baths, in the middle of March, who goes to the UP in the middle of March when it's all muddy? If you're an ATVer, yes. Other than that, there aren't many people who enjoy March and April in the UP. There's not much to do, and so you can't get $200 a night for your place. And so you really have to look. So I'll move our place. It's 4 bedrooms, 2 baths. I'll move it down to $75 a night, just to keep my cleaner working. Because if I lose my cleaner, then she goes and gets another job, which I don't blame her. Everybody needs regular income. So I want to keep my cleaner working. I want to keep my place moving, but I might have to move it down to $75 a night. Now, with that mindset on a 4-bedroom, 2-bath place in the UP, I've been able to bring in $63,000 in 2019. So by moving the prices when I need to, you'll pay $400 a night for that same place in July, but you'll pay $75 in March or April. So it's kind of interesting how we watch the prices, and we're very careful about that. So you have to believe that guests are just like you. You are no better than the guests. And this is sometimes really difficult for people who've rented out homes long term. Sometimes I have owners who used to be a landlord or are landlords. Being a landlord and being a vacation rental homeowner is a completely different ball of wax. The people who are staying in your house could buy your house if they wanted to. They just choose to do things differently with their money. You are no better than the people who choose to rent your home. They have disposable incomes. We do not go into the ghetto to pick out people who can't make a $600 a month rental payment to come up to a vacation rental. These are people with disposable income. The cheapest week you can get at one of our places is $500 a week up to $12,000 a week. So people have disposable income, and so this is what they're doing for their vacation. So another thing is, you have to really think about being honest is imperative. We do not, and I emphasize, we're very careful about honesty. I mean, realtors say they're honest, but realtors, when they write those descriptions, this is cozy means small, and, vintage means old. They play with words to make it all sound nice and fluffy. And then when you go there, they use these big, they even take, realtors will use the big lighting to make a small room look big. They do all these tricks, and they get you to go there, but then you are looking at it before you buy it and say yes or no. The difference with vacation rentals, people don't get there. When they get there, they've already paid in full. So that's why we have to be completely honest about the pros and the cons of a place. That's why we don't use filters on our pictures. You see the real pictures because we want to be honest with people. If you look at our island, it's funny on our website, people laugh all the time because I've actually written in there that if you go with people you don't like, it will be miserable. You cannot go to the island unless you all really, really like each other. Because I had one of the worst groups we ever had was a group of 3 high school guys who were so excited about booking, it broke my heart. They were so excited about booking, they were picturing they were going to sit around the campfire all week and they were going to play their guitars and talk about old times. But their wives had never met. And they were going to bring their wives to this little cabin in the middle of an island with 3 full-size beds. We only have 3 full-size beds there, not even queens, so let alone kings. 3 full-size beds with 3 women who never have met and 3 guys who haven't seen each other in years. Oh my gosh, that was the longest week of my life. They called and complained. It was one of the wives or somebody was calling to complain because everybody was unhappy and they're trying to push it on to us why they were unhappy. Somebody their nice shoes got damaged in the mud near the dock. And they expected us to pay for their shoes. I mean, it was that bad. So that's when I wrote, you all have to like each other a lot to go to the island. It's a galley kitchen. 2 people really can't cook easily. So I make sure we're clear about that. I don't say the island's for everybody. And then Tioga Falls. Tioga Falls is a cabin that you have to really, if you used to like camping at one point in your life, and now you're in your 40s and 50s, and you really would like to sleep in a regular bed, but you kind of want that experience, Tioga Falls is for you. It's not for everybody. And I even say there, do not bring grandma here. Because if grandma's used to watching Wheel of Fortune every night at 7, she's just going to be a not friendly person when it comes to when she can't get her TV. And so, because a lot of times people say, oh, I'll travel with, bring my in-laws. There's space for my in-laws. Don't bring your in-laws to a place that doesn't have a TV. That's just crazy. That's just asking for trouble. And so then they start complaining about everything. They start looking at every corner for every bit of dust. And it just goes down. We've actually had people bring their in-laws to places where it's a big loft, where it's a loft with a bunch of beds, and they bring their in-laws to that. I'm like, why? Don't bring your... So now we're open. We'll say, you're traveling with your in-laws, and we have 1 open room upstairs and 1 bathroom downstairs. You realize you're setting yourself up for a lot of disappointment. And so but now that we have 76 places, we can move them to other places. So it's important to be honest with people. We have found being honest has been one of our treasures. So when we go back to what's the best mindset for renting out your place, would you love to take the money that you made from your cottage and put it back into it? If that's the case, you have a good mindset for renting out your house. For example, my husband and I, we have a hot tub. My husband would love to throw the hot tub into the river regularly. He hates the thing. He's not a hot tub person, but I know that bookings increase by 40% when you have a hot tub. Everybody wants a hot tub at a vacation rental, but he can't stand it. And, of course, our hot tub broke last year. And I thought, and the motherboard went out again. He said, we're done. We're done with the hot tub. Well, I looked at some of the bookings, and I read what people had asked for, and people had said specifically that they couldn't wait to use the hot tub. I said, if someone says they can't wait to use the hot tub, I can't call them now and say, sorry, too bad, so sad. No, I can't do that. So we went out. I said, let's go big or go home. And he thinks I'm nuts whenever I do that. But I said, so we bought a $12,000 hot tub and put it at the lodge. Well, that hot tub will have paid for itself by June of this year. It will have paid for itself a year and a half later. So it's important. People appreciate that. They love when you do things, but we put the money we make back into the houses. And we're looking at in the future, when we go to sell, when we go to, this will be a continued, a legacy that we're leaving. So it's important that you put the money back in. If you're just looking at the money to have your additional spending money, it probably isn't the best fit for you because putting the money back into the cottage only increases its value and will make, you can get more money from the guests too, from their bookings. So you have to really care about the guests and their experiences. We have one of our owners who actually goes and she puts out little gift baskets for the guests all the time. We've had a hard time keeping up with that with our cleaners. I used to do that personally. But it's been very difficult with the cleaners to get them to have that same momentum, to get the little Faygo. I did everything made in Michigan, some Verner, some Faygo, some Better Made chips. It was just very difficult to get that together. But if you can, whenever I'm up there, I make sure I leave them Uber bars, and I make it when I'm there, but I don't do it all the time. So the other key, if you're going to rent out your place, the best mindset, if you want to do it on your own, it's not, what I do is not rocket science. It's not impossible for anybody to do. It's just a lot of details you have to keep together. But you also have to consider, do you have 10 to 12 hours of work a week? Can you give up 10 to 12 hours a week? So it takes about 8 to 12 hours a week it takes to manage one vacation rental. With all the calls, with the putting in your Michigan use tax, all that, it's about 8 to 12 hours a week of work. So if you're going to do it on your own, is that something you can consider? So does anybody have any questions right now? Any questions? Yes. 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 Oh, beautiful. You know, I would say absolutely, like that's a crazy idea in most places, but I will say you might be able to get away with that in Houghton Lake. Right. Exactly. If that was a standard lake that wasn't so popular, I would say that was pretty crazy. Because right. The tip up town is huge. We have 2 places there. And so that is definitely a possibility. Obviously, I don't need to tell you, but obviously you won't make as much money as you would if you would rent it full, all summer. But you would know that going in. We had one guy who always took the month of July. But he was like, you know what? I'm getting my property taxes paid, and that's okay. And we don't take those clients often, but because of, for popular lakes, we do. Yes. So like we don't take a lot of places that are not lakefront often either. But if like we just took one for the western part of the UP right on a snowmobile trail, and that's done really well this year. So yeah, so in general, no. But and I would say you could do on Airbnb and you could block it out. You just have to be careful. You'll also get a bunch of questions because people don't take the time to look at the availability calendar. Are you sure you're not open 4th of July? You're not open 4th of July, are you? You're really not open July? You're not. So it would just take. You just have to be prepared for that. That's all. Yes. Oh, good question. So she asked how much could she block it off all summer and then rent the rest of the time. I would say on average our homeowners take about 2 weeks a year, 2 weeks in the summer. That's on average. I do have one of my best owners. When I say best, they're easy to work with. They trust our decisions, and they don't bug me all the time about pricing. They understand that we only make commission. So those owners, they take Memorial Day, Labor Day, and 4th of July weeks. So they take the prime, but then we have it the rest of the year, and we still do well. They're one of my $100,000 owners. Yes, we do. Yep. UP in the fall is a good time. Yes, we do get, snowmobile season. About 40% of our properties out of 76, about 40% are booked, are open in the winter. The rest are closed down. And so those that are open in the winter, the bookings, we don't make as much money on those. Winter is not. In the fall, even though I think it's the most beautiful time of year, we still make our premium dollar in the summer. Between mid-June, and it used to be between when I first started in 2005, it was between Memorial Day and Labor Day. You could get it. You could do really well. Now it's between mid-June and mid-August, and even mid-June and the first week of August. Because if you have kids who are in sports, they start going back, and football camp starts normally in early August. So. But yes, you can. And the key is, like, when I say the 1 month, like, it's different if you take off the whole summer or block a whole month off. The challenge is when the owners go in, like, just for a weekend here and there, that's where it becomes where it feels like a burden to rent it out because they're having to clean it all out and clean it all out every time and clean all of their stuff out. And if you've had a cottage for a long time, a lot of times you've accumulated a lot of stuff. So that definitely is a challenge. Our average homeowner brings in, and I'll just skip to that right now because I think we only have a few more minutes. But our average homeowner brings in about $15,000 a year. And ranges between $5,000 and $100,000. One of the biggest things, if you do consider renting out your house, that you need to consider is, right now it's a big thing in Michigan about there are certain neighborhood associations. Houghton Lake is one of them that is trying to ban short-term rentals, which is a little bit crazy because you think Houghton Lake has so many, but there are a few people who are people who move up there. The most challenging people I want to be nice about this, but the most challenging people are the people with really nice pensions who move up to their cabins, and they're going to live in their cabins full time, and then all of a sudden want to become the town police. And so, because now it's their full-time residence. Even though they partied really hard when they were growing up there, now it's everybody should shut down. So those are and they're NIMBYs. So they're not in my backyard because those same people go to Florida and they spend 3 weeks renting 3 months renting a vacation rental, but then they don't want anyone next door to them renting. But I do believe, we've got to have some sort of regulations. It shouldn't be the Wild West. I believe there can be a permit process. In Houghton Lake, they're talking right now about doing safety checks. Okay, I don't think that's a bad thing. Come and make sure I have my smoke detectors working, make sure the carbon monoxide detectors are working, make sure there's nothing unsafe. Charge me a $50 permit fee. That. I think all that's reasonable. Where it gets unreasonable is like Schoolcraft County in the UP. They actually wanted the property owners to turn in their calendars to the county. I'm like, wait. We're in the United States of America, and I'm supposed to tell you when I'm sleeping in my own bed or not, or tell you when my cousin Susie is coming over? Like, are you kidding? And they wanted us to send updates update the calendars so if you decide not to come up, you're supposed to report to the township. Like, that's just crazy. So, and they were saying you're only allowed to have guests. You're only allowed to rent your place 6 weeks out of the year. So they're starting to back down from that after pushback, but that was just some people we had 2 women who were afraid of strangers coming into the neighborhood, and they were afraid of strangers. And then we had in Kalkaska this year, we had a neighbor who went all crazy on Lake Manistee that it was our guests were ruining the neighborhood, bringing down the neighborhood. And when we got to the bottom, because we take that stuff seriously, because it's a reflection on our business too. So we take it seriously. We got involved. At the end of the day, turns out that one of the other neighbors had a cousin that nobody had met who none of the other neighbors knew. And so he was the one causing the ruckus. It wasn't our guests, but our guests are easy scapegoats because, they're unfamiliar. So it's something you have to really look at. And we just got an email from one of our owners about the Houghton Lake, some of the details. Like, they're talking about wanting the floor plans, which is a little bit extreme, but if they want to know, like in Schoolcraft County, they said only 2 people per bedroom, no matter how many beds it's had in the room. So it's not crazy, but it's, so you just have to kind of beware. They're most militant over on Old Mission Peninsula in Traverse City. They are hardcore. I put something up on the web, and within an hour, somebody was calling us to take it down. I'm like, wow. So they must have alerts set up somewhere. So it's kind of interesting. But if you're going to rent it yourself, one of the most important pieces is to make sure you're covered with vacation rental insurance. And when I say that, like right now, if you have a second home, you have second home insurance. And it covers you very similar to your first home because it covers your contents inside and your outside. And if you go to an insurance agent who is not knowledgeable, they will tell you to get renter's insurance, like landlord insurance. That's bad advice. That is not correct. You do not want landlord insurance. You need vacation rental insurance. State Farm will look at you like you're a nut, and so will AAA. But like Foremost, Farmers, like there are some, CBiz. So there are some niche companies that work with vacation rental insurance. And it's important you do that because I had owners a couple of years ago who told us that, so they rented it all summer, and then they told us that they were going to be up there in October, and they were going to shut it down. So we didn't go and look again. We assumed they were going to go in October and shut it down. Well, they got busy, as we all do. In February, they said, we haven't been up there yet. Could you go and check on it? And we're like, oh, okay. So we sent our cleaners over there. The pipes had burst. It was an absolute mess. $80,000 worth of damage happened to this house. And what saved them is that they had the correct insurance. So because they had vacation rental insurance, all that was covered. Because what happened is the first thing the adjuster did was they went online to see if, because that's the way they're trying to get out of paying claims now. But you need to have a really super high liability coverage. So we have at least $1 million on liability, low contents, and then your normal dwelling. And that then this vacation rental insurance covers you for lost rent too. So for the guests that we had to cancel, even in the spring, because they were still working on the cleanup, we had to cancel on guests. The owners got reimbursed for that money, the lost rents, and we got reimbursed too. So make sure you have the appropriate vacation rental insurance when you go to rent your place. Let me see if there's any other, safety, obviously, and you need to advertise. Airbnb, HomeAway, VRBO. Airbnb is the most popular in Michigan right now. HomeAway, and they charge, let me get to it. So guests pay like 14% to book on Airbnb for the service fee. Hosts pay 3%. So that's not bad as a host. So if you do it on your own, throw it on Airbnb, it'll only cost you 3%, which is the same thing as like credit card processing. So that's a good deal. HomeAway and VRBO, they're traded on the stock exchange now because they were bought by Expedia. So you're looking at guests pay about 4 to 9% for that service fee, and then owners pay either $499 a year or 10%. So if a property is not going to bring in at least $5,000, we will put it on the 10% plan. So it's just but HomeAway and VRBO, that's definitely, they're very popular still. They've been around a long time. And with Booking.com, guests pay between 8 and 12, and owners pay between 15 and 18%. It's a European country. It's a European business. It's very expensive, and guests pay a lot. So we only book by the whole cabin. We don't do individual. We don't do anything individual. Accepting pets is a good thing. And then this is one of our luxury places. And we talked about that already, about the average. And when it comes to property management, you'll find a bunch of different options. We charge anywhere between 20 and 40% for our services. There is a company called Evolve. They only charge 10%. But for example, you have to take your own guest complaints, and you have to hire and fire your own cleaner, and you have to, so things like that. So it's, you just, whatever works for you is best. So then, if you have any other questions, I am here. I'm in booth 1237, right across the way there. And so I'd be happy to answer any questions and this is never a 5-minute decision if you're going to rent it out. And I do strongly believe that there's enough business out there for everybody. So even if you want to rent it out on your own, I'd be happy to be a resource for you. Call us and ask any questions you want if you're doing it on your own. And we're more than happy to answer it for you. Okay, thank you.